Good morning. This is the time and place for the zoning administrator's hearing for October 29, 2008. My name is Edith Fuentes, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. We have 5 cases today, and relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. Let me just quickly go through our hearing procedure. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. 1. That the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. 2. That there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other property in the same zone or neighborhood. 3. That the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And 4, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. Under the provision of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. 1. That the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan. 2. That the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. 3. That the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property. And 4. That adequate public and private facilities will be provided for the use. Applications for parking reduction permits shall also meet the procedures and the criteria set forth in Section 30.32070A and Table 30.32B with qualifying project features. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the zoning administrator can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will read the description of the application or the request, and then read reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The applicant will be asked to come forward stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and any interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both name and address within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments, if desired, in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed and the case taken under submission. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. I would like to emphasize that the date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from our Building and Safety Section, Permit Services Center, located on the same floor of this building. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of these speaker forms, which have been provided by the front door, and submit it to our planning assistant. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the zoning administrator's hearing are recorded on tape as part of public record. Our first case is PCUP 2008-034. Location is 626 North Pacific Avenue. Applicant is Samuel O. And this is an application for conditional use permit requesting to allow the operation of a daycare center at an existing church located at 626 North Pacific Avenue in the R1650 medium high density residential zone, described as portion of Lot 16, Oliver's West Glendale tract. And let me just quickly go through some of the comments we have. From Fire Prevention Engineering, they are requiring you to provide verification of current state and city required documentation and permits for child care facility. Okay, that's the only comment I have. No major concerns or issues from anyone. Who's going to present the case? Is Samuel O. here?
Yes. Sorry, the format is a little different. I was at a hearing in La Cañada last night. But, my name is Samuel O., and I am representing Mrs. Min, Sally Min, for 626 North Pacific Avenue. Just
Sure.
leave it here. The applicant has been at this site for about a good 10 years now, and she's been very helpful to the community and very good service to the community. She's been, I think in the research findings, we presented some newspaper clipping, and she's been going out with the children to some of these elderly homes and taking them out and singing to them on holidays and kind of showing that to the community, whether it's Koreatown or in Glendale, that giving back to the community is very important. And the children have been very good. And also she's certified from the LAUP, which is, I'm not too quite sure what that is. However, she's licensed from, and she has a special privilege from the state to have these underprivileged children come to, and she'll provide child care services for free to these underprivileged families. And she has about 30, 40 children currently at the school, and she's been there for 10 years. I know there's been some inconsistency in the in her having not with her having not having the CUP.
Green card. Can I have? Go ahead. Keep going. Yeah.
For about 5 years, but actually what happened is it wasn't to her negligence, but she hired somebody to take over her case because she wasn't too fluent in English. And what happened was he said, you know what, we took care of everything, and she paid him, and that was the last she heard of him. And then 5 years later, this this mail came from the city of Glendale, and so she thought she had everything covered for the CUP for those 5 years, but I mean, records indicate that she didn't, and the guy that she hired he left with after just taking the money. And so we do have her license, a copy of her license, and she's just, yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more she wants me to talk about it, but she's been telling me constantly, that she's been just an outstanding citizen and nobody really opposes her. Even the church that she has her daycare service at really enjoys having her children there, and they work together, and that's it.
Just for clarification purposes, sure. They used to have an existing conditional use permit, and it expired in 2003.
Yeah.
Right? So make sure she understands conditional use permits are not granted permanently. They are renewed every so many number of years. So she has to keep an eye or watch for the due date, and before it expires, 3 months, 4 months before expiration, she needs to renew it. So I'm hearing this like a de novo case, like a first-time case.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a copy of your application with you? There are 4 findings or 4 questions in there that you have to justify to me why I should approve this conditional use permit.
Right.
You can tell me all the stories in the world, but if you don't meet those 4 findings, I need to deny this.
Right.
So, do you have a copy of your application?
I don't have it with me right now. I thought.
Then go ahead and go through the 4 questions. You can expand. You can do whatever you want to do with it. So.
Oh, the 4 questions.
You don't have it?
No, I don't have it with me right now.
I'm gonna just stay there. I'm gonna lend you the whatever you submitted, and then.
Okay, and I mean, just to
fill
clarify.
out this application form?
Yes, we
or
filled
somebody
out.
else. Okay.
Yeah, just to clarify, I mean, why she didn't have it for the 5 years was because she got cheated by a man who said
it doesn't matter to me.
Right.
Just go ahead and go through the 4 findings.
Okay. How will the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan? Well, like I said before, she's been her daycare is, as you can see, surrounded by a lot of residential apartments and single-family homes, and she provides a lot of her services for everyone in Glendale, particularly around her neighborhood, whether it's 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet radius. And, all the families, she even, I think, got a petition from a lot of the parents saying that they really enjoy her services. Why will the proposed use and its associated structures, facilities not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, or to the environment? Well, I mean, this structure has been there for many, many, many years, and her use of it, she has not changed any of the plans since the structure has been built. The children, I personally went there, and the children are enjoying it, and there's more than enough adequate space for the children to enjoy outside, kind of a safe area with a guarded gate, and also I don't think it's detrimental because the gate protects from the children to go outside. Also, there's adequate parking there for the drop-off and pick-up of the children. And for the environment, I mean, it's a church and it's been there for many, many, many years. Let's see, for 3, why will the proposed use and facilities not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property? Well, like I said, I mean, this church has been there. It's on the corner of Pacific and Pioneer. It provides church services and daycare services to the surrounding neighborhood. And I don't think it impedes at all. Statement of additional facts related to conditional use permit request. Well, I mean, like I said before, Mrs. Min has been in the daycare service for about 20 to 25 years. She has been licensed throughout all of those years, and she has had outstanding record, enough so that she could be certified from the LAUP to provide free daycare services for the underprivileged families. And she has had no problems with the facility pastor, the church pastor, and the owner of the land. And she has very good credit with the parents there, and they really enjoy that she's so near the freeway so that they can go really quickly off and onto the freeway to their work, to and from work. And, she goes to late hours sometimes for the children if their parents are late from work. And like I said, there's nothing more I can say about her. I mean, she's been on the newspaper with her children and her daycare for going to these elderly homes to provide, just warm greetings for the holidays and whatnot. And so that's it.
Okay. What are the days of operation? Is it 5 days a week?
Yes,
or
5 days, Monday through Friday.
Hours of operation?
Hours are, I wrote it here, 8 to 6 p.m. 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And how many employees does she have?
Employees are 4 teachers.
Do they do evening activities or programs?
Such as...
do they have events in the evenings or activities in the evenings? Or
well, not special activities, but I mean, they're so young, and so they try to really teach them in English. And so that they can really be, they're so malleable at that young age, and that's what the parents really want for their children.
I said,
right.
What I'm saying is, does the daycare, do they do any evening events or activities?
Oh, no. It finishes when the last child is picked up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the previous conditional use permit, did you read it?
No, I haven't read
Did
the
not.
previous.
Because I was going to ask you if there are any of the conditions from the previous CUP that you cannot meet or are not meeting, or is everything as far as those conditions applicable, still feasible or agreeable with you?
I think the only condition from the previous was that there's no signage, right, for the daycare, I think.
Right.
Right.
We don't allow that.
Yeah, right. We don't. Yeah, we can meet any or all of the conditions. Right.
Okay. I didn't see here a copy of any of the permits or licenses that fire prevention is asking for. You may want to make copies and drop it to your case planner.
Right. I wasn't quite sure what the fire department.
You may want to.
Right. I'll go clarify.
Work with the case planner
right.
so you can straighten that out. Okay. I think those are all the questions I have. So
okay.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or in opposition to this application? Do you have any closing comments, Mr. O? No? Okay. And with that, I'm going to go ahead, take this case under submission, and we'll let you know. Thank you very much for coming. Our next case is case number PCUP 2008-035. This is a renewal of an existing conditional use permit. Applicant is Diana Ju, or Jo. Owner is Grace Korean United Methodist Church. This is an application for a conditional use permit requesting to allow the operation of a private daycare center at an existing church facility located at 211 South Pacific Avenue in the R3050 moderate density residential zone described as lots 2 and 3 and portions of lots 1 and 4, Block U, Glendale Valley View Tract. And let me just quickly go through some of the comments. I have a note here from fire prevention. It looks like they made some comments and then later on. Would you like to explain that, Ms. Toledo?
Okay,
Go
there
ahead.
it goes. Yeah, what occurred was that there were some issues related to the project as it relates to fire. I guess they had some exiting issues and some other
social
issues.
hall.
Exactly. And so what occurred was those comments were forwarded to the applicant, and the applicant met with the fire department, addressed the issues, and then later on there was a new revised set of comments that superseded the previous ones explaining the comments that were addressed.
Yes, it says here, fire department concerns satisfied as of October 10, 2008. So I'm not going to read them anymore. Okay, no other concerns or issues from anyone? Who's going to present this case? David? Oh, Diana? Number 2. Thank you. Nicole Lee?
Hi, yeah, my name is Nicole Lee. I'm a director of preschool. I'm just hired. The owner is Diana Ju. I'm here for her. Our case is for renewing the daycare. We just find out the conditional use permit was expired 2 years ago. Diana
This one also expired?
Yeah,
Okay.
Diana Ju, she took over the school just the same year, like 2 years ago. So she didn't notify anything about the city permits. And this school has been around 12 to 13 years, I believe. And we just got the notice letter this year and just beginning to proceed all the paperwork again. So can I go over the findings about
Definitely.
The school is located on the Pacific Avenue and Oak Street, which has church buildings. I'd like to share about the 4 findings. Number 1, how will the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plans? The operation procedures, including all elements and objectives of general plan, are discussed with the church board in regular basis. Church administrative board reviews ongoing issues as well as giving problem solving, advising, and helping. And is it okay to go over the additional findings from summary of like a previous case? That's kind of okay. This is from the summary from the previous case. The continued use of property for a daycare center subject to approval of a conditional use permit is a permitted use in the R3050 moderate density residential zone and is consistent with the various elements of the general plan and specific plan for the area. The request is in keeping with the standard operational procedures of the existing use and occupancy permit and previously granted conditional use permit. Okay, number 2, why will the proposed use and its associated structures and facilities not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare or to the environment? The use of facility is not be detrimental to the public health and safety. There is nothing dangerous, harmful, or disruptive to the public. The daycare center intends to meet a good impact to the neighbors and tries to be beneficial to the public. And for another summary for this one, the use and its associated structures and facilities have not proven to be and will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment as long as the use and activities of the daycare center are comparable and are not disruptive to the surrounding areas. The use meets the intent of zoning ordinance and has remained beneficial to the public. The continued use of facility with no changes is a benefit to the community and the surrounding environment. 3, why will the proposed use and facility not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding properties? Its use of facility has not conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property for many years. The facility is well situated on the site and compatible with the surrounding uses. Its use will not adversely impact the public. The summary says the existing use with its services has existed for many years and has not adversely affected or conflicted with the adjacent uses or impeded the normal development of surrounding establishment and property. This type of facility has shown to be compatible with the surrounding area uses. The facility is well situated on the site, and no substantial evidence was submitted to indicate that the existing use has or will adversely impact existing facilities, property values, or normal development within the surrounding areas. Explain how adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. The facility has adequate utilities, landscaping, or parking spaces, and traffic circulation. Church and daycare center operates the facility in different days and hours. No overlaps uses at all. Use a good management, with a good management. Also, traffic circulation is well maintained with only drop-off situation at different hours. The summary is adequate public and private facilities such as loading, setback, utilities, parking, and open space are provided for the existing structure. The structure is properly accommodated and located on the site with the church facility. The existing parking and circulation measures will be maintained. And statement of additional facts relate to conditional use permit request. Daycare center has been operating for many years in the existing facility without any accidents, complaints, or disruptions to the neighbors. And people passing by and some parents make positive comments about school because it's open to the main street that it's overlooking to our community friends and neighbors. It's a very easy access for the neighbor to observe school and activities that we do with children. And I have like the last approval summary of the conditional use permit. Number one, that the development shall be in...
That's okay.
Oh.
That's my job now. It's okay. I'm very familiar with this place and this case. I think I heard the last application back in 2001. So my question to you is, has anything changed?
No, not
As far as your days of operation, it's...
days of operation just 7:30 to 6 p.m.
days.
Yeah, 5 days, same.
Okay, Monday to Friday. Don't compare yourself with the other case. I think they're
okay.
in more hot water than you are. So you are from
7:30 to 6 p.m.
to 6 p.m. What's the number of employees that you have?
1, 2, 3, 4. Of 4 employees. 4 employees.
Including
Besides
yourself?
Owner, yeah.
Including yourself?
Yeah, including myself.
And do you do any evening activities or any programs
No,
in
we
the
don't.
evening? Nothing. I just want to make sure that all your permits and licenses are current and up to date, nothing expired.
Yeah, yes, they are.
Okay. And as far as the conditions of approval back in 2001, is there anything or any of those conditions you cannot meet, or
I don't see any.
are you okay with all of those conditions?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, it's still the same operation,
Same conditions.
the same everything. Okay. I think those are all the questions I have. So let me just... Is there anybody else here who would like to speak in support or in opposition to this application? Seeing none, do you have any closing comments or anything else you want to add?
Not really.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
You may want to call Laura.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead, take this case under submission, and we'll let you know in writing. Thank you very much for coming. For our next 3 cases, I am going to recuse myself and turn over the public hearing to our principal planner, Laura Statler. It's not for anything else, but because I lease my vehicle from CalStar. I'm just trying to avoid any appearances of bias or any conflict. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura Statler, our principal planner. Thank you.
Short break, please.
Oh, yeah. Let's take a 2 or 3 minute break.
Oh, you have a card? Oh, welcome back to the zoning administrator's hearing. My name is Laura Stotler. I'll be filling in as zoning hearing officer for the last 3 cases on this day. Thank you. We have 3 projects. They're all located at the same address. We have, the address is 610 to 700 South Brand Boulevard, and 112 to 124, and 115 East Maple Street. The applicants for all the 3 cases are Whitfield and Associates. The owner is Parkley Holdings Incorporated. Case planner is Roger Kiesel. This is, the first case is an application for a conditional use permit proposing to expand an existing vehicle sales dealership by constructing a new commercial service center, a new parking structure, and tenant improvements to the existing showroom building located at 610 to 700 South Brand Boulevard and 112 to 24 and 115 East Maple Street in the commercial auto commercial specialty zone and commercial auto commercial specialty retail parking structure overlay zone described as lots 1 to 8 and a portion of lots 9 track 2460 lots 179 and a portion of lot 180 Girder and Hamilton's Lomita Park track and lot 159 and portions of lot 137, 138, 158, and 160 Girder and Hamilton's Lomita Park track. The second case we have also at the same address is case PVAR 2008018. That is an application for a variance proposing to expand the existing vehicle sales dealership. And we also have case number PPR 2008-012, and that is an application for a parking reduction permit to allow the expansion of the existing vehicle sales dealership requiring 380 parking spaces on a site that is proposed to contain 308 parking spaces. And as part of that description, the project also includes 148 tandem spaces. However, those tandem spaces are now not counted toward regular parking space requirements. And again, that's located at the same address. And my intention, if there's no objection in the audience, is to combine all three of these hearings into one hearing. So do I see any objections, or is that okay with everybody here? Okay, I see no objections, so my intent is to combine the two of them, or the three cases, into one. And first thing I'm going to do is take a look at the comments that we've received from other departments, and then I'll ask for a presentation from the applicant. So the comments we've received from, this is from GWP Electrical Engineering. The developer is responsible to pay the full cost of providing electric service to the project. The developer must contact Glendale Water and Power Electric Customer Service for the method, location, and cost of new electric service. The developer is required to pay the full cost to relocate existing GWP electrical facilities that are required as a result of this project. The development is required to maintain horizontal clearance as much as 10 feet from nearest GWP overhead electrical primary conductors. The developer must contact GWP for specific clearance requirements for this project. Also, the Glendale Water and Power has an existing electrical easement along the northeast portion of Building A. The developer must file for a permit to encroach with Glendale Water and Power to occupy this easement. And I don't have any other comments from GWP. I also have comments from Public Works Department. The city engineer has noted that the applicant shall submit to the city a topographic survey showing the entire project site, all three building locations, and a minimum of 50 feet beyond in all directions from the site. The property lines shown on the plans, which front the first alley easterly of Brand Boulevard, do not agree with existing city records. The applicant shall revise its drawings to reflect the correct property boundary line configuration of the property and show the correct setback distances of new building walls from the property lines. An encroachment permit agreement is required for the proposed bridge that connects Building A to Building B. In addition, no doors shall swing towards the street or alley right-of-way, and the plans shall be revised to eliminate this condition. If the easterly face of the southerly one-third of Building C is located within 1.5 feet of the existing property line, then the building property owner shall provide an irrevocable offer to dedicate to the city for alley use purposes a strip of land 1.5 feet wide along the southerly 50 feet of the property where Building C is located. In addition, the property owner shall enter into a covenant and agreement with the city, agreeing to contribute to the total cost of widening the alleyway fronting their property at such time when the city elects to widen the alley. The cost of widening the roadway shall include but not be limited to Portland concrete cement, alley improvements, and relocation of utilities. And the irrevocable offer to dedicate and the covenant agreement shall be recorded against the property and shall be binding upon owners, future owners, encumbrances, successors, heirs, and assigns, and shall continue in effect until released by the city engineer at the request of the owner, and based on the evidence that the terms of the irrevocable offer to dedicate and covenant of agreement have been satisfied or are no longer necessary. If the easterly face of the southerly one-third of Building C is located more than 1.5 feet from the existing property line, then the property owner shall dedicate to the city for alley purposes a strip of land 1.5 feet wide along the southerly 50 feet of the property where Building C is located. This dedicated portion shall be improved with a new 6-inch Portland concrete cement alley pavement under a separate permit, and to the satisfaction of the city engineer. A shoring permit will be required for all excavation adjacent to or in proximity to the public right-of-way. A grading drainage plan for the engineering division's review and approval will be required. And if no shoring permit is required, then grading and drainage plans shall be made a part of the building plan design. All method of discharge from on-site drainage shall be to the satisfaction of the city engineer. All on-site drainage shall be conveyed to the street via cast iron pipes and or parkway drains from the property line and exiting through the curb. No on-site or roof drainage shall be allowed to sheet flow through the driveway apron or sidewalk. All on-street inlet and roof drainage devices shall be equipped with appropriate fossil fuel filters or equal, and the applicant shall enter into a covenant agreement with the city for installation and continued maintenance of all NPDES stormwater drainage devices on the property, and granting inspection rights to the city. The applicant shall perform the following street improvements along the entire frontages of the property on Brand Boulevard, Maple Street, and the first alley easterly of Brand Boulevard in accordance with the standard plans for public works construction under a separate permit, and also to the satisfaction of the city engineer. Let's remove the existing broken, damaged, deteriorated street improvements along the entire frontage of the project on Brand. Widen Maple Street to 42 feet along the entire frontages of the project. Transition to and join the existing street with using reverse curves having a minimum radius of 10 feet. Along the frontages on Maple Street, remove all existing curb, gutters, sidewalk, driveway, and alley aprons, catch basins, landscaping, irrigation, including the northeasterly and southeasterly curb returns at the intersection of Brand Boulevard and Maple Street, and construct new Portland cement concrete integral curb and gutter, sidewalk, driveway, alley aprons, street trees, street wells, and irrigation at the new widened location. Each new curb return shall be constructed with a minimum radius of 25 feet and subject to the approval of the city's Traffic and Transportation Division, and the site shall be provided with an ADA-compliant handicap ramp. Relocate and reconstruct the existing catch basins on Maple Street to a new widened curb alignment. A permit from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Works is required to perform this work. The widened portion of the roadway and curb return shall be paved with a minimum pavement structural section of, it's described here, of asphalt rubber hot mix pavement, and it all needs to be to the satisfaction of the city engineer. You need to construct 9-foot wide Portland cement concrete sidewalk between the back of the new curb and property lines fronting Maple Street. Any unused driveway apron shall be removed and replaced with new Portland cement concrete integral curb and gutter, sidewalk, landscaping, irrigation. Construct new driveway apron and sidewalk area behind the apron with new 6-inch Portland cement concrete pavement. The entire proposed driveway shall conform to Chapter 30.32.130 of the Glendale Municipal Code, and driveway profiles are required to demonstrate compliance with the code. And this project will also require separate street, alley, and storm drain improvement plans prepared by a registered civil engineer, which shows all the proposed work within the public rights of way, and shall be submitted to the City and to the County of Los Angeles Department of Public Works for review and approval. Street improvements along Brand Boulevard will be inspected after the construction of the project has been completed and during the street widening work along Maple Street. The applicant may then be required to perform additional street improvement repairs along Brand Boulevard up to the reconstruction of the street. Provide new street trees, tree wells, and irrigation along the entire frontages of the property on Brand Boulevard and Maple Street to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works. And directions are also given to contact them regarding the location, size, number, and locations for street trees. The applicant shall bear all costs involved in the relocation and/or reconstruction of all utilities, overhead and underground, including but not limited to traffic signals, controller boxes, street lights, power poles, storm drain catch basins and their connector pipes, pull boxes, meters, valves, the adjustment to grade of all manhole frame and cover sets within the public rights-of-way that will be affected by the street improvements, and shall coordinate all such work with the respective utility companies. In addition, the applicant shall provide new curb painting and markings, traffic lane stripings, and pavement markings. And all that's to the satisfaction of the city's traffic and transportation administrator. Separate permits are required for all work performed in the right-of-way. The applicant shall bear all fees in obtaining all the necessary permits and construction inspections for work within the public right-of-way. And the applicant shall comply with all the NPDES requirements, including the submittal of an approved local stormwater pollution prevention plan and a standard urban stormwater mitigation plan that will be incorporated into the design of the project. And we also have more comments. Just to note that this project must comply with all NPDES and SUSEMP current regulations. So again, stormwater compliances will be required. And we have a note from maintenance services. There's currently 19 street trees growing in the sidewalk along the proposed project. 2 street trees will be affected on the Brand Boulevard by the proposed project, and a variance and also for street widenings on Maple Street is required. It looks like that will result in the removal of another 13 street trees. All of the trees in this location are still young and in very good condition. Removal of 13 to 15 healthy trees will negatively affect the Glendale urban forest. Thus, the project as proposed is recommended to be revised and include a method for tree preservation and/or replacement. Again, you noted that there was a requirement earlier also in Public Works to plant street trees. And their suggested mitigation is that all trees lost will be replaced in kind. Maintenance Services is also recommending the installation of a backflow prevention device in the laterals serving the proposed development at the time of construction. There's also a note that this is just a code requirement because of the size of the new structure is equal to or greater than 1,000 square feet. The applicant must comply with Municipal Code 8.58, the construction and demolition waste reduction and recycling plans requirement. And you're encouraged to call Building and Safety for more information on that. For traffic, let's see. Here are the concerns from the Traffic and Transportation Administrator. The project would eliminate approximately 40,000 square feet of building floor area and construct approximately 96,000 square feet of building floor area. In doing so, a net increase of approximately 55,000 square feet of building floor area would occur. Based upon the information published in the Trip Generation Institute of Transportation Engineers 7th edition 2003, the project would generate approximately 1,860 additional vehicle trips on a weekday. The project occupies both the northeast and southeast corners of the signalized intersection of Brand Boulevard and Maple Street. As a result, the project's 1,860 additional vehicle trips would be concentrated on Brand Boulevard north and south of Maple Street and on Maple Street east and west of Brand Boulevard specifically. Just to note, approximately 740 vehicles per day on Brand Boulevard north of the project driveway are anticipated. Approximately 1,200 vehicles per day on Brand Boulevard immediately north of Maple Street. Approximately 740 vehicles per day on Brand Boulevard south of Maple Street. Approximately 190 vehicles per day on Maple Street east of the project driveway. Approximately 1,300 vehicles per day on Maple Street immediately east of Brand Boulevard. And approximately 190 vehicles per day on Maple Street west of Brand Boulevard. In the vicinity of the project, Brand Boulevard is a designated arterial in the city's circulation element. As a major arterial, it has an environmental traffic carrying capacity of 45,000 vehicle trips per day. Currently, Brand Boulevard carries approximately 30,100 vehicle trips per day, both north and south of Maple Street. The additional 1,200 additional vehicle trips on Brand immediately north of Maple Street generated by the project would increase Brand Boulevard's traffic volume to approximately 31,300 vehicles per day. Because this volume would be less than the aforementioned environmental traffic carrying capacity of 45,000 vehicle trips per day, the project would not be expected to cause any significant or adverse traffic impacts on Brand Boulevard. In the vicinity of the project site, Maple Street is a designated urban collector in the city's circulation element. As an urban collector, it has an environmental traffic carrying capacity of 10,000 vehicle trips per day. Currently, Maple Street carries approximately 5,800 vehicle trips per day, both east and west of Brand Boulevard. The 1,300 additional vehicle trips per day generated by the project would increase Maple Street's traffic volume to approximately 7,100 vehicle trips per day. Because this volume would be less than the aforementioned traffic carrying capacity of 10,000 vehicles per day, the project would not be expected to cause any significant and adverse impacts on Maple Street. Based on the preceding information, traffic staff believes the proposed project would not cause any significant and adverse traffic-related impacts. And another comment we've also received from traffic is just provide code-required parking, including design of all parking spaces, aisles, and ramps. And there's also a note that the traffic and parking will be analyzed and included as part of the environmental review process. And that concludes comments I've received from Public Works. I also have comments from the Water Department, GWP Water. Backflow prevention devices are required for each separate irrigation and fire service connections from the City of Glendale. A backflow prevention device may be required if multiple service lines are needed for domestic service. And there's direction to contact GWP Water Department prior to installation. And you'll also need to call them for locations of where the devices should be placed. There's a note, any water service or fire line connection, when no longer needed, must be permanently abandoned. And any fees associated with that would need to be paid to GWP Water Department. The applicant must check with the fire department to determine if existing fire flow is adequate. The developer shall pay the cost of any necessary fire or domestic water services and recycled water service to the property, as well as off-site water facility improvements necessary to provide fire flow as required by the Glendale Fire Department. The developer shall install recycled water facilities for irrigation. The recycled water irrigation system must be inspected and approved by the local health agency and GWP prior to receiving the recycled water. Plumbing permits must be submitted to the local health agency and GWP Water for review and approval. And then there's directions for doing that. The police department has noted that they want to see designated spaces on the site plans and also on the site noted for employees parking. They've noted that there's a problem with employee parking on the adjacent residential streets. They also want a note, an agreement that inventory vehicles shall not be placed in employee parking spaces. And they want the employee parking spaces located in a location where it's easy for code enforcement officers to clearly see if there is a violation of parking requirements. They're also concerned about the type of paging system that may be used. There have been complaints in the neighborhood from noise about paging systems. And they're requesting that only a personal paging system be allowed and that any loudspeaker public address system shall not be allowed in the area because of the previous complaints. And those are the comments I've received from the police department. From fire prevention, we have several conditions related to demolition and then also to new construction. And the first is Site A. Currently, they have 2 industrial waste clarifiers, which will require removal and subsurface soil investigation, where plans will need to be submitted to the Environmental Management Center for review and approval, after which permits for this activity will be required. Site B currently has 2 underground storage tanks for waste oil and 1 industrial waste clarifier, which will require removal and subsurface soil investigations. Again, work plans will need to be submitted to the Environmental Management Center for review and approval, after which permits for this activity will be required. In Site C, they currently have 1 industrial waste clarifier, which will require removal and subsurface soil investigation, also subject to the same review and approval. For new constructions, for Building A and B, fire sprinklers will be required in each building to be served by separate systems. The fire alarm system will be similar to BMW in each building, and it will be served by separate systems. Provide each building with separate industrial waste clarifiers. Provide area drains for auto service area and connect to first chamber of industrial waste clarifier. Area drains, which are protective against rainwater in the covered parking areas, may be connected to the industrial waste clarifier. And that would be the 3rd and 4th floors of Building A, and the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd floors of Building B. Vehicle ramps from roof into building to be protected against rainwater entering the building. Rooftop car detail area is to be relocated to a covered area and graded so that no rainwater may enter any waste, and any wastewater may exit. So may enter any wastewater exit drains to be provided and connected to the industrial waste clarifier. Hazardous material storage, is recommended that no underground storage tanks be installed. Instead, recommend above ground double walled tanks. And a CUPA packet industrial waste permit will be required. If fresh oil and waste oil combined storage exceeds 1,360 gallons, a spill prevention control and countermeasures plan is required by the fire department. Building C, this building currently does not have any fire sprinklers, but since they are joining the 2 buildings together and upgrading for ADA, elevator, wheelchair lift, they will also require fire sprinklers. Please coordinate with the fire department, fire engineering division for that. Garage area is lower than the existing showroom and has a new exit door out of the rear, which appears to have people walking up the vehicle ramp. The slope of this ramp is questionable for exiting. You'll need to investigate that, make sure it complies with ADA and exiting requirements. And phasing, fire notes that they need to include a phasing plan so they can ensure ingress, egress, fire life safety at all times. And you'll be happy to hear that Community Development Housing has no comments. And the Parks Department also has no comments. And we have no written comments from Development Services. However, I know we do have a representative from Development Services in the audience. So if you have anything to add, you're welcome to come up and add if you have any comments to consider at this time or if you'd like to wait. Okay. That concludes all the comments that I've received from other divisions. And I would like to call up the applicant, Mr. Gary Whitfield.
Yes.
And would you please describe the project for me? If you'd like to come up here and show me how you're going to do this development, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. This is going to be a 2-phase or 2.5-phase project. Currently, the existing service facility for CalSTAR is in this location. And the reason we're doing this all is because Mercedes-Benz has required the owner to upgrade her facility to comply with new image and spatial requirements that Mercedes-Benz North America is requiring all their dealers. And that is evident with the facelifts we're doing on the showroom, but the size requirements are such with service and parts that we have to expand, and the owner wanted to expand in the site that she's currently at, as opposed to either moving out or moving someplace else. So hence, most of the development has gone vertical as opposed to horizontal, because there are no lots available. She did purchase a part of this site over here to be able to expand a little bit her current, where her used cars are being sold. So the idea is that we're building land instead of buying land, and the first phase will be the replacement of this existing service center, because we're lacking on required service bays, and we're lacking on parking. So that is going to occur on this site initially. This will be a service center. It will be service bays, and it will be service parking, and in some display along here. Again, just to give more of a retail feel on the Brand Boulevard side. Access to the service drive is off an existing driveway cut, and we've made the driveway such that there's enough queuing that we can get a considerable amount of traffic off the road and into the service drive, so that it's not backed up like it currently is, because everything in this development currently goes in this driveway right here. All the sales customers, service customers, new cars, used cars, except for the used cars, but everything goes in here. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the circulation of automobiles more efficient, less congested, within this a tight area. But still, we're trying to bring all the service over here, keep service customers in this area, and all the service business in this structure. And in doing this building, we need to knock the existing service building down and build a better, larger parking structure in order to basically have an inventory area for cars to be stored, and also employees. These are all concrete structures. The upper level on this structure will have the detail area, which I think you alluded to, and it is covered for rainwater protection. But when
Is that shown on the elevations?
yeah, right up there. It is right there. And we looked at the two functions here, and putting the detail area. The detail area will really have wash facilities in it, so all the service cars will want to go over there and get washed. So what we're trying to do, and what we proposed, is this bridge, the bridge between over Maple Street from this structure to this structure, in order to make easy passage between the two structures internally with non-customer driven cars, but all valeted porter-driven cars between this structure and that structure, so we can keep as much of the traffic off of Maple Street as we can. And really, what we're bringing onto Maple Street from this direction is we've got most of our sales customer parking in this area. We have some other customer parking area in the back of this service lot, which again, this is one of the variances we have here, is because of this setback. This lot has an overlay of a residential zone, which they want us to bring the setback for this building back from here toward Brand Boulevard another 10 feet. But it already has a 30 or 40 foot, I forget what the depth of this is, it's about 50 foot parking lot with landscaping buffering the residential zone. So what we're trying to do is again, the idea is to take service customers and put them here, and they will come up in the ramp and go through the structure, and then if they need to go over here, they will cross a bridge. Inventory will be in here. We're using the existing location of the ramp, although we're bringing it back because the existing ramp, I believe, approaches in a side yard setback here. And then we have a large job to do here on remodeling this existing showroom, which is 20 years old and out of sync with Mercedes-Benz and their thinking in terms of their image, their car capacity inside the store, and their sales offices and customer functions. Currently, the owner leases this detail building, which is about a 5,000 square foot building adjacent to the existing showroom. And what we're going to propose to do is once the detail is either we can use it in some of the service bays over here, or this particular structure is finished, is to start work on this showroom here and upgrade it to the current image, and then move everybody into this smaller sales area, and then go over here and then remodel this. And we have some facade work that we're doing along Brand Brand Boulevard around around the corner that brings it up to a current image that Mercedes wants, and it's a more higher tech look than what currently is shown there. And aesthetically, we've also brought that look across and over here, again, to try to maintain the retail look of this frontage along Brand Boulevard. And we're trying to make these buildings look not like a parking structure, but more like a building that is either an office or something other than just a plain old vanilla parking structure. After this facility is built, then we will demo and build this facility. And how this one goes, it really depends on what pressure, number one, Mercedes, because we're pretty far behind on their time frame, but what pressure Mercedes puts on. But this is someplace in between the completion of this probably, and this one will be.
It'll be first.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be done operational. So service business will be totally moved out, and all the traffic for service will be there. Once she moves out, she's going to rent additional parking from, I think, the city in off lots for her storage capacity, or her inventory and employee parking.
Now, have you provided any information on how the transition is going to work for not only customer parking but your employee parking? Is you're going to have? It looks like you're going to lose a large surface lot.
Yeah, we're going to have to. They're going to have to be off-site and banned in.
Do you have a plan for that? Because I haven't seen one. I'd like to.
No, we
Okay.
haven't. Yeah, we don't have a true phasing plan yet. Except we do know that this is the first phase to go, and right now this will displace used cars and very little customer parking. And there's an existing service building over here on this lot, but that's really the key there.
Would you provide one? Would
Would
you
we?
provide one?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, because I think that's going to be critical to how this functions for that neighborhood, especially given the police comments.
Well,
So I'd
right.
like to see how that's. I don't know how you're going to balance it. I'd just like to see what you're proposing.
No, we could do that. I mean,
Because right now you're proposing it all on site, correct? You're not proposing to put any parking for employees or storage or anything off site. Am I
no,
understand that
that's
correctly?
when it's done. When it's complete, we're all on site.
Right, but in the meantime, because you'll have you're phasing
Well,
it.
in
so
the meantime, we'll have off-site storage. She already has off-site storage in parking structures around town.
Okay,
So,
I need to see that information. Then just where are you? How are you going to make this work? Where are you going to
Yeah.
put the parking while you're under construction,
right,
and as well as at the end? Okay.
sure. Yeah, and it has a lot to do with the general contractor, because we have to have a mobilization plan and how he's going to mobilize each site, and if he's going to mobilize from site to site, or if he's going to be in one site and continue on that site through the whole project. So that is critical with that, and tying in that plan also. So it's a pretty complicated project. The best thing is we'll have parking when we're done in this building for employees. We could park all the employees up there and put all the inventory off-site. So
Prior to construction of the parking structure?
yes. Yeah. So.
And does this site plan take into account the roadway widenings that are required by engineering?
Yeah, I think, yeah. See this, here is the curb line right here, and here's a new curb line right there. Here's a curb line, and here, this light line is the existing line.
Okay.
So, yeah, and it blends in right here.
Okay. So these boxes are the street trees that are going to be removed here?
I think so, yes. So these show, existing boxes.
Are you going to maintain this? The landscaping? I know there's landscaping out there now. You're
Oh, no,
intent
we
to
did the whole thing.
take all that out?
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a landscape plan to show
Well,
what
this
you're
is-
proposing? Or is, I know this is a schematic.
This
but-
is schematic, and here's,
So is this what I'm just asking, is
Yes.
this what you're proposing to do when it's all done? I know you have a landscape out there now.
yes.
It's similar, okay.
And it's really a three-dimensional plan because a lot of these buildings have green screens on them, which we have shown here, 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 and here. And I believe we've added more since even this plan. So we have, vertical vines that really try to hide the fact that we have a concrete block building.
And what are you doing to minimize impacts on neighbors? Or what kind of design features have you put in your development?
Well, everything's enclosed in terms of service bays, and back to the pagers. No one uses pagers anymore, and they're all just handheld devices, and everything internally is pretty well screened and closed in for noise. I mean, that's one thing. And what we're trying to do is around, you can see here where the heaviest landscaping is where the neighbors are. And again, these are where a lot of the green screens along the face of the building are being placed.
Are you removing any of the existing walls or anything adjacent to neighbors to perhaps reduce impacts? Or, because I noticed that there's quite a lot of walls, tall walls in these areas.
Well, we're actually bringing these walls back. The existing parking structure is really right on the property line, and we're bringing these walls back, and we're stepping this wall in the rear.
Is it an 8-foot separation you're providing?
Yes, yeah, 8 or 10. But we're also stepping it back, I believe. Yeah, this is this property line right here.
Mm-hmm.
And we're basically stepping the building back here to be sensitive to this neighbor. And then this neighbor here has got this buffer here, which again is really just a parking. It's actually less congested than it is right now, because this is customer parking, so that it can't be inventory, it can't be tandem or crammed in there. So this will be a little, and more landscaping here.
And then, I guess if you'd like to go over the findings and,
Okay.
unless there's anything else about the.
No, well, the CUP is for the parking structures, and the variances are for really this bridge here, because we want, and this setback right here.
Average setback.
Because we're bringing this guy close enough to this property line to, mitigate the span on the bridge to make it fairly.
I think you also have a variance for amount of landscaping. I believe you had that too.
I just thought it was landscaping too.
I believe there's a parking, one of the variances was for landscaping.
As for the setbacks.
Yes, actually, the surface parking lot on the east of the service facility, that area, that lot is zoned R1650 with a P overlay. That allows surface parking on the site, but it doesn't negate the requirement of 25% of the site being landscaped because it's a multifamily residential zone. And so one of the variances is for the development to provide
everything's
16.
all right in here.
Right, to provide approximately 16% in landscaping, not the required 25.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add to the description, or? No? Okay, with that,
Unless you have a question.
well, if you'd like to go over the findings for the CUP, the variance, and the parking reduction permit, that's what I need to hear now.
Well, I can also explain sort of just briefly the parking concept in a dealership. The parking requirements are based on employees and customers, based on size of building. A lot of the customer parking that's required is service-related, and once you park your car in the service drive, a porter takes it to a place, either to a service bay or he queues it in a parking space. Most of the service parking, if not all of it, is either tandem parking because it's a controlled, they put the hats on it and you have the numbers, and it's very controlled and it's very dense. So a lot of the customer parking spaces that are required are the service, and that is a tandem function. And so hence we have a lot of tandem spaces along with, we also do that in denser places with employees, where employees, time of work, they share a parking place that is compatible with somebody that comes in later or earlier and leaves later. So it's especially in dealership instances, because there is always a lot of complaints about employees going off the off-site. So that's just sort of an overview on the parking.
Well, I just want to clarify this, that the findings of fact that I need to hear from you for a parking reduction permit are that such reduction may be granted where the review authority finds that the parking need for the land use is not as great as for similar land uses, or the parking requirement for the land use established in the zoning code is greater than what will be needed by the land use. That's one finding. The second is...
I just wanted to give you an I'll read it. Whatever I've got down here, I'll read.
I just want to make sure we cover all the findings.
All right, then let's start this recital here. This is the conditional use justification. Item 1, how will the proposed use be consistent with various elements and objectives of the general plan? The response is proposed parking structure will be located on property within the South Brand specific plan zoning area, which was implemented in 1992 with the intent of promoting the development of commercial automobile-related uses. Specifically, the proposed location of the parking structure is zoned as commercial auto, commercial specialty, with an overlay zone of retail parking structure or all auto use. Proposed parking structure will be used in connection with adjacent Mercedes-Benz showroom, sales, and service facilities. That's number 1. Number 2, why will the proposed use and the associated structures and facilities not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, or to the environment? The South Brand specific plan specifically targets and promotes the development of auto dealerships and related uses. The proposed parking structure will be located on a previously developed site on which is currently located an automobile service building of comparable scale with a similar use in that service building, the service building accommodates an auto-related function. Number 3, why will the proposed use and facilities not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding properties? Answer or response is the proposed use and facility complies with the intent of the local approved zoning for site. The properties to the west, north, and most of the south share almost identical zoning and are utilized for auto-related purposes. Where proposed parking structures abut residential zoning, downscaling of building masses, landscaping buffers, and tasteful facade designs will help to mitigate against negative impacts to neighbors and local residences. Number 4, explain how adequate public-private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. I'll go over I'll just note all the conditions. Number 1, that's one, but electrical utilities will be underground, therefore improving overall appearance of neighborhood streetscape. Landscape areas will be compliant with zoning for site and will be planted with code-compliant plant specimens. High-quality stainless steel facade plant support systems will also be used at various locations on building facades to increase landscape and serve as buffer to residential properties. Parking capacities and specifications will be per zoning for site and development of a bridge for proposed parking structure to a new service facility will mitigate against traffic impacts. And additional comments. Parking structures are permitted subject to approval of a CUP were developed as a unified part of a project with primary functions on South Brand Boulevard. Proposed parking structure meets such requirements where structures would be a part of a greater CalStar Inc. Mercedes-Benz auto complex and where parking structures would be located immediately adjacent, notwithstanding alleyway, to the existing automobile showroom sales building and physically linked via bridge to the automobile service facility located across Maple Street. Period.
Okay.
Okay, that's the
CUP findings.
CUP findings. Okay. And let's see. This is the variance let's see which variance this is. Okay, here's this is a justification for the exemption from the minimum permanently landscaped open space of 25%, which we just spoke about. What are the particular difficulties or unnecessary hardships related to the property associated with your project? Answer: subject project is zoned as a surface parking overlay with R1650 medium high-density residential underlay and located within the South Brand specific plan. Owner proposes no change in use and intends for the surface parking lot to remain with addition of more landscaping as required by Section 30.32.160B2 of the Glendale Municipal Zoning Code. If a variance is not granted, the existing service parking lot will most likely not be able to be used for surface parking in future complex expansion. Customers would still be able to access building at this location. However, customers may not have a convenient and immediate parking access option, in particular handicap parking at service center, and customers would be required to park off-site or across street at parking structure. Landscaping requirements essentially render parcel useless for both of the code intended purposes: surface parking lot, zoning overlay, and residential use zoning overlay. Number 2, what is unique about the property involved or to the intended use or development of the property as it related to as related to the variance request. Subject property is bounded to the east by an R1650 residential zone, which is in accords with subject property zoning underlay, and bounded to the west by a commercial specialty zone. Property has a long time use as a surface parking lot in connection with the CalSTARS Motor Inc. Mercedes-Benz dealership. Subject property, if used as a surface parking, variance request granted, would provide a substantial buffer between residential use to the east and commercial zone to the west. Number 3, why will granting the variance not be detrimental to the public welfare? Granting the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare. In fact, granting of the variance will allow the parking in location of closest proximity to the proposed service facility, including handicap parking. Granting this variance will allow for the highest and best use of the property and aid in implementation of the circulation element for the complex. The circulation element is integral to the functionality and safety of the complex and is designed with the intentions of keeping CalSTARS Motor service-related traffic off the public street and rights of way, mitigating against traffic impacts, lessening impacts of on pedestrians, and helping to reduce potential obstructions of Maple Street for residents in nearby neighborhoods. Circulation element would also provide a separate, distinct, and predetermined means of access for facility employees to transfer vehicles between buildings, therefore promoting a more safe work environment within the facility. 4, why will the granting of the variance be in keeping with the objectives of the application regulations? The South Brand specific plan was developed and implemented with the intent of providing guidelines to ensure and promote the orderly development of automobile-related uses. The proposed construction of CalSTAR Motors Service Center is therefore an encouraged use and a reasonable, foreseeable addition to the South Brand specific boulevard streetscape. The granting of the variance would also allow the 115 East Maple property to be used accordance with its surface parking overlay and may provide a safe off-street loading zone. That's that one. Next one. This one is exemption from interior setback. What are the practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships related to the property associated with your project? Answer: proposed service center is to be built at 622 South Brand Boulevard on property zoned by the South Brand specific plan as commercial specialty. Said property is bounded immediately to the east by 110 East Maple, which is currently being used as a surface parking lot and zoned as parking overlay with R1650 medium high-density residential underlay. Proposed future use of 110 East Maple is surface parking. The R1650 underlay element associated with 110 East Maple creates a setback and landscape-related hardship on the parcel proposed for development of service center, where the code would require that for buildings over 28 feet in height above grade, there shall be a minimum setback from the property line abutting the residential zone of 7 feet and an average setback of 10 feet. South Brand specific plan, page 186. In this case, the setback originates due to the residential underlay of 110 East Maple property and would create a no-bill zone extended the entire length of the most easterly limit of the proposed service center building, which would be further compounded by the requirements for landscaping and screening and buffering per sections 510 and 511 of the South Brand specific plan, respectively. 2. What is unique about the property involved or the intended use or development of the property as related to the variance request? Answer: property proposed for service center abuts a property zoned as parking overlay with R1650 residential underlay. Only 4 such overlay areas exist over R1650 underlay in all the South Brand specific plan area. Surface parking zone creates a buffer setback from the existing residential zone. An additional 10 feet would create a hardship to the property owner in that the property could not be developed as zoned and developed like other properties with like circumstances. The South Brand specific plan promotes the development of auto-related uses, and therefore the construction of an automobile service center is not unique in itself. However, the South Brand specific plan strongly discourages the addition of new curb cuts along South Brand Boulevard, IBID at, I guess that's exhibit? I don't know.
Probably exhibit.
At 154, whatever he means here. IBID at 154, that's after that word. The building is designed, therefore, to utilize existing curb cuts along South Brand Boulevard and Maple Street and does not propose any new curb cuts for ingress or egress to the proposed service facility. As a result, vehicles to the service will enter the building utilizing existing curb cuts on South Brand, west side of building, and may egress the building at the east side of the building into the surface parking. A setback on the eastern limit of the service center would therefore not provide for an exit from the building, would eliminate circulation element and functionality of the current design, and most likely lead to the infeasibility and termination of the entire CalSTAR complex and expansion project. Number 3, why will granting this variance not be detrimental to the public welfare? Answer, the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare. The granting of the variance will enable the project to proceed. The design of the facility is in compliance with the suggestions of the South Brand specific plan in regards to curb cuts. The setback and landscaping, if enforced, would not be available for access by the general public as it would be on private property. Most importantly, the current design configuration would allow the project to proceed with the proposed circulation element of the complex, which works in tandem with the proposed bridge over Maple Street to facilitate the transferring back and forth of automobiles from the proposed service center to the proposed parking structure. The circulation element is integral to the functionality and safety of the complex and is designed with the intentions of keeping CalSTAR Motors service-related traffic off the public streets and right-of-way, mitigating against traffic impacts, lessening impacts on pedestrians, and helping to reduce potential obstructions of Maple Street for residents in nearby neighborhoods. The circulation element would also provide a separate, distinct, and predetermined means of access for facility employees to transfer vehicles between buildings, therefore promoting a more safe work environment within the facility. Number 4, why will granting the variance be in keeping with the objectives of the application regulations? The South Brand specific plan was developed and implemented with the intent of providing guidelines to ensure and promote the orderly development of automobile-related uses. The proposed construction of CalSTAR Motors Service Center is therefore an encouraged use and a reasonable, foreseeable addition to the South Brand specific boulevard streetscape. The granting of the variance would also allow the 110 East Maple property to be used in accordance with its surface parking overlay and may provide a safe off-street loading area. Next.
115 East Maple. I just want to verify the address. It's this one we're talking about.
Yes.
I just want to verify that. Okay.
Yes.
I believe it's 115. Okay.
Oh, it's
I'm just correcting.
115. Did I say 105?
110. I just want to make sure we're talking about the right
No,
parcel. Okay.
I'm just reading too much up here.
No, that's okay. I'm
I'm babbling now.
listening.
It's 115 on my notes here,
Okay.
and I think on your
It is. I'm just making sure.
okay. This one is an exemption from street side setback requirements to extend building into setback area, to construct a bridge to provide a means of access from proposed service center facility to the parking structure.
Okay.
Number one, what are the particular difficulties or unnecessary hardships related to the property associated with your project? Proposed service center is to be built at 622 South Brand Boulevard on properties owned by the South Brand specific plan as commercial auto, commercial specialty. Said property is bounded immediately to the east by 115 East Maple, which is currently being used as a surface parking lot and zoned as parking overlay with R1650 medium-high, high-density underlay. Proposed future use of 115 East Maple is surface parking. The R1650 underlay element associated with 115 East Maple creates a setback and landscape-related hardship on the parcel proposed for development of the service center, where the codes would require that within 40 feet of the residential zone, the minimum building setback shall be the same distance as required in the residential zone. South Brand Specific Plan, page 185. Therefore, deferring to the setback requirements by the residential zone, in this case originating from the residential underlay on 115 East Maple, the setback would impose a 20-foot setback for a distance of 40 feet in the precise and most reasonable location for the construction of the bridge, which is the smallest part of the development. Number two, what is unique about the property involved or the intended use or development of the property as related to the variance request? Property proposed for service center abuts a property zoned as parking overlay with R1650 residential underlay. Only 4 such overlay areas exist over R1650 underlay in all of South Brand Specific Plan area. South Brand Specific Plan promotes the development of auto-related uses, and therefore the construction of an automobile service center is not unique in itself. However, the addition of the bridge element to link the proposed service center with the proposed parking structure is a unique and distinguishing feature of the project and has many general welfare and public safety attributes to be described below. Without the setback variance, the building would not be allowed to extend into the setback where it would provide the most reasonable, safe, and only touchdown location for the bridge at the service center. Number three, why would granting of the variance not be detrimental to the public welfare? The granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare. The granting of the variance will enable the construction of the bridge. The intended function of the bridge is to facilitate the transfer back and forth of automobiles from the proposed service center to the proposed parking structure. The bridge, therefore, will help to keep CalStar Motors service-related traffic off the public street and right-of-ways, therefore mitigating against traffic impacts, lessening impacts on pedestrians, and help to reduce potential obstruction of Maple Street for residents in nearby neighborhoods. The bridge would also provide a separate, distinct, and predetermined means of access for facility employees to transfer vehicles between buildings, therefore promoting a more safe work environment within the facility. Number four, why will the granting of the variance be in keeping with the objectives of the application regulations? South Brand Specific Plan was developed and implemented with the intent of providing guidelines to ensure and promote the orderly development of automobile-related uses. The proposed construction of CalStar Motors Service Center is therefore an encouraged use and a reasonable foreseeable addition to the South Brand Specific Boulevard streetscape. In addition, the addition of the bridge will help to reduce traffic-related impacts resulting from the expansion of CalStar Motors, Inc. complex. Statement of additional facts related to variance request. The use of a bridge to aid the safety, functionality, and increased productivity of automobile-related facilities has a precedent in the Pacific BMW complex, located just south of the CalStar Motors, Inc. complex, as well as numerous commercial developments in the downtown area. They're all over.
Okay.
Okay. Now, okay, the Parking mitigation. Let's see. This is a bad print. Explain why the need of parking of your use is not as great.
Would you like a copy of the code if you want to?
Well, I'm reading a bad copy. Is what I'm reading.
Here, the circled parts show what the code requirements are.
Okay.
Those are the findings that I need to make.
Okay.
So.
Okay. I guess on my application here, I've got some justification to number one. I just can't read the deal.
Okay.
It says the three buildings are designed to accommodate approximately 146 employees per shift. In comparison with similar Pacific BMW car dealership next door, if we don't have to allocate many square footage for circulation for service space on the second, third floors, it would require about 50 less employee spaces. What you're doing is we're counting the drive aisles between service bays, and that accounts for about 50 employees, which there's no employee use in drive aisles. So the square footage is sort of a handicap to our calculation. Okay, and then for the next one, okay, there's 59 service bays with 72 staff, required 190 spaces, 72 for staff, 118 for in-service parking. Part storage, which is used as a warehouse with 15 staff, requires 15 parking spaces. Administration and sales offices with 59 staff requires 59 spaces. Customers require 40 spaces. So that's the parking count. And
So what was the total then between your employee and your customer parking? I got 40 customers, and what was the employee
40
parking?
customers, admin and sales are 59. Parts is 15. And then service is 72 staff, 118 parking, service parking. So that's the totals. And then, as I previously stated, the tandem parking is used for the the 118 service parking, because that's a porter-driven parking plan.
Okay.
Is that enough information?
Well, I'm getting that you have a need for 304 parking spaces. And then along with your tandem, you've got, I believe, 458. Is that correct?
I believe it was 406.
456 parking spaces.
Yes.
And your tandem is going to be, you have 148 tandem spaces? And that
There
would be,
are 308 standard spaces, and then the increment is tandem, and the total number of parking spaces on the site is 456.
I'm just figuring out whether you have enough parking spaces to hold your, tandem parking spaces to hold all your employees.
There are 148 tandem spaces.
Okay.
I have 59, 72. So, yeah.
Yeah, just want to make sure they're not off in the street, that
Yeah.
comments from police we could actually implement where we
yeah.
require all employees to be parked on site in the tandem spaces and that code enforcement can come by. I'm trying to combine what the comments were from the police department to make sure that we can actually comply with that. Okay.
Right. Now, do they come on site? I mean, they just...
Well, that's what they're requesting. They're requesting permission
So
that
they-
you put marked employee spaces so they can be verified by code enforcement. Okay. And did you have any other comments to add? Because I do have a handful of questions. I know
Yeah,
you've read a lot of
No,
information.
go ahead, ask me questions.
The questions I have are, you did hear the comments that came from the various departments. Did you
Right.
have any concerns with any of those, or?
The only concerns I have are the ones that I can't, most of them are pretty typical, but there's some dedications and some encroachments that I'd like to have a copy of that and just.
I will give you a copy of all the
totally-
comments.
Yeah, totally understand what those mean, but for the most part, the standard conditions, we have no problem with. And we knew about Maple Street.
And what about the comments from GWP about undergrounding utilities and setbacks?
We're already,
Those are accommodated? Okay.
here's your.
Thanks. And then we also have an initial study that was prepared for your project. Have you been given a copy of this? It includes the environmental impacts.
I think so.
Refer to the case planner.
Whoops, I'm sorry. I'd have to look at my notes. I'm not sure that they have.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
What these include, I would encourage you to take a look at the environmental document because it includes mitigation measures. Most of them seem to actually, they mirror the comments that came from a lot of the other departments. As part of the project approval, I would need to adopt the environmental document, and I want to make sure that you need to agree to do all the mitigation measures that are actually included in here. So I want to make sure you have a copy of this before you leave today. I can take this under submission, but I want to make sure you read this before, say, I was going to approve your project. I would need to make sure that we would have an approval of this document from you.
is that in writing? Do you want it?
It's in writing, and there's a signature page for you on here. And this is out right now for public comment. It's the initial study, EIF 2008008.
One of the mitigation measures is labeling the parking spaces, designating which are for employees, which are for customers, that sort of thing.
Okay, great. And then, are you proposing any exterior lighting up on your upper levels of your parking structure, anything that may go over to the residential neighborhoods? I'm concerned with these areas here. Anything in this area
The only thing that we really
and on your ramp here?
is just for safety and security, and any fixture that we would propose would have cutoff facilities or cutoff capabilities built into it.
Okay, so if we put height limits and things like that on as a condition of approval, you would be okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be a blaring, it's there, again, for security. We want to make sure that employees are safe up there and cars are safe.
Okay, and then
That's also addressed in the environmental study, as well as the South Brown specific plan.
Yeah.
And then I also want to point out the South Brown specific plan has quite a few landscaping details related to interface between different zones, residential and commercial uses. Just want to make sure you're aware of that. I don't see details here, but I want to make sure that you're aware that they exist, because one of the things we would want to see is before, say we're going to approve it, we would want to have that additional information submitted so we're aware of it and it would be in the file.
So that would, how do you mean details? I mean,
Like on, I think it's 162 to, actually it's 162 to 167. There's specific requirements for landscaping in the South Brown Boulevard specific plan in the CACS zone, which would apply to you. For instance, like what you're showing on the corner, the landscaping you're showing on the corner, that's in compliance with the design So you are showing that. However, there's some of the interfaces next to where residential uses are that are not shown. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. It has to do with some of the heights and treatments of boundary walls. And so I just want to make sure you're aware of those. The details are, it's not that you're not going to do it, it's just that the detail, that level of detail is not shown on your plans here. So I want to make you aware of that, because if there's an approval, there is likely to be a condition of approval, if there is an approval, that would reference these landscaping requirements and wall separation requirements. I just want to make you aware of that.
Okay, but
It's in the code.
But if you condition it for that, is that enough, as opposed to us physically drawing it right now, or?
I want to make sure you're aware of this, because we would, when we write up a condition of approval, we're going to say comply with all codes. It includes these codes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that you're aware of them.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be a surprise to you. I just don't have a level of detail to say if you are or not.
That whole specific
plan
plan's sort of a surprise.
Yeah, it's a great document.
It's an interesting document.
Okay, and the only other concern I did have was you have a large wall that faces a residential neighborhood. You can see it from, I believe I don't remember the street name, but it's in this area here.
Uh-huh.
And right now,
Actually, Laura.
or am I in the wrong?
Actually, Laura, I think it's just
below that. This one?
Yeah, west. It's that
This one?
area. Yeah.
At the end of the street, come to the end of the street, and you see this huge wall.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like there's multiple walls. One of them is yours. It's a concrete block, and it appears, I was just judging the height. I would guess it was probably 15, maybe 20 feet tall.
Oh,
And it appears to be a boundary wall. I believe it's on your property.
Okay.
And I'm curious what the tree, are you proposing to remove that or lower that or make any changes to that wall at all?
Well, I mean, obviously it's a redundant wall, and it would be kind of silly to put all that landscaping and put it in between a 15-foot wall and a parking structure. So I don't even know if there's a need for it, at least a concrete block wall.
Okay, so if there was a condition to remove it or lower it, would that be?
Yeah,
something
all
would
we
be-
have to do is
if we
try
approve
to, mitigate, any type of, I don't think that'd be a problem, period. No.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I think that tall wall is integral with the structure that's there now.
So it'll be removed, when
Yeah.
it gets removed, that'll be gone. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I have no further questions. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I guess what's the process?
You missed
What is
the
your-
beginning of
I
the
know,
meeting.
I'm just traffic,
Okay, what the process is we take public comments here, so you've spoken. Next, I'll call up the other members of the public, anybody else who's here who would like to comment on your project. Then you'll be asked if you have a rebuttal to any
Right.
comments which may come up. I will take the project under submission, which means there's no decision today. I take it and we'll review it over the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
And I'll look at all the comments we've asked for. I will probably send you a letter asking for additional clarification on some of the issues I've already mentioned. And it depends what other comments we have. There may be other issues that come up that need clarification. And we'll wait definitely for the environmental review period to end. We're taking all public comments. We're still taking those. I believe that ends November 14th.
November
13th. Okay, so November 14th is when we'll be able to consider the total environmental document, depending on the comments that we receive from the public.
Okay.
And then after that, sometime after that, we'll issue a letter, and that would be a letter of decision. And that will actually be the decision date, whatever the decision is, and you'll be notified in writing as well as anybody who submitted a comment in writing and who's also left us an address.
Okay.
They'll receive a copy of that letter.
Okay.
And then after that, there's an appeal period, which anybody can come in. There's a 15-day appeal period.
Now, assuming if we get approved, we have design review to go through. We can't start that process until you.
You would need to have a decision on the environmental or on the variance and your CUP and your parking reduction permit
Okay.
prior.
All right. Okay.
Okay, and also I just want to make a clarification, just for the record, that one of the requirements that we would have, we were trying to investigate this first, see if all these properties are held as one with a covenant. We haven't been able to verify that yet, so would you have any concern if we put on as condition of approval that all these properties be held as one under a covenant?
I wouldn't object to that.
Okay.
It's all one development. I mean, I know you had a question about, are they related buildings, and one can't operate without the other.
And the reason the reason I'm asking this is to comply with Section 404 of the CAO zone in the South Brands Boulevard specific plan, which notes that the municipal code allows this to be developed as a unified part of the project with primary frontage on Brand Boulevard and tied by covenant. So it's considered a auto use or auto dealership. I just want to make sure that we're actually going to tie those by a covenant.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it.
I'd like to add one thing. We did have a public or open house at the dealership for the neighbors.
Did you receive any comments there from the neighbors? Do they have?
Nobody showed up,
Okay.
so there's no comments.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Okay.
And next, I have a card from David O'Connor.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Good. I'm a property owner of the two buildings that are east of where A is going to be built. And my main concern, the one thing I didn't hear him talk about, he talked about a lot of the parking issues, and that's great that they want to they want to move the employee parking off the street, which would help the neighborhood a lot. But the biggest issue that's down there is definitely the parking or the offloading and loading of materials. And if you could hand this to her, this is just different photos. This is just a week of what the tenants down in that area go through.
Okay.
Basically, they've got trucks that come at all hours, which is normal for any business down there. But what they do is they double park, triple park, and they block the street for extended periods of time, anywhere from 5 minutes all the way up to 3 hours, just depending on who it is. And the police have been called hundreds of times. What I would like to see with this project, and I really like everything that I've seen and everything that I've heard from this gentleman, but the only thing that I'm not seeing is a place where an actual big rig, like those that you see in those photos, can actually pull in and offload without obstructing the 2 lanes of traffic on Maple, because Maple is a small street. It's not a Brand Boulevard. Your totals for the different amount of vehicles that pass on that street, it's definitely completely different than what you have from Brand to Maple. And Maple is there are a lot of apartment buildings there and a lot of residential, and it really obstructs the flow. And so the tenants have to contend with beeping horns, people yelling and screaming because they're upset because traffic's been blocked for whatever period of time, and the widening of the street might help, but it still won't alleviate the problem with the big trucks parking for hours on end. And they don't care about the red zones because there's no place for them to park. And where else are they going to park? Out on Brand Boulevard where there's no parking also, or in the middle of the street on Brand? There's no place for that. And I think the only way it could work is something be constructed to where they're able to have a drive-through. Because I'm looking at the one parking area that's just above that setback on A right there. Yeah, I'm looking at that, and if they had to back into that area, and use that as a offloading area for their vehicles, that would help. But I think on top of that, it would still be blocking traffic. It would need to be some sort of drive-through area where they could actually drive through, drop their vehicles and leave. And there's no through traffic there. Yeah, you can't pull through to the other side. And that's actually kind of a narrow driveway too. Regardless, that's my main concern. Possibly, like I said, the widening of the street might help, but it's not going to solve that problem. And they're building a completely new structure on B, so they won't have that that flat space available that they used to have. And this occurs, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the reason why is because I get the phone calls from the tenants. Basically, they've got tow trucks that are coming at all hours, offloading their cars there at where currently B is, where they're going to. That's basically a flat parking area behind the actual service center, and they're offloading constantly there, which is fine. It's just that they end up blocking traffic all the time. The other thing that I was asking about was, the lighting. You brought that up with the lighting. I know that they have on the wall that's on the east side, just east of A, there with the trees there. They have, I think, maybe 4 or 5 low lights that are sitting kind of below in the area. Those are great. But you were saying that there was some sort of facade that they were going to build around the balance of the structures on B, some sort of vine growth or something like that to kind of keep
Screening.
Screening. Okay, that would be the name I'm looking for. I would ask that they use that same type of screening so it flows from one side of the street to another from the vantage point of the neighbors. How far does the widening of the street come east on Maple? How far does that actually go? Do you mind if I step up there?
Yeah, go ahead. We have a pointer too.
I'm assuming it's right there, sir? Okay. And then where does it end on this side? Right there? Okay, gotcha. Okay. And is there parking on the street here?
It's the same.
Same.
What it is, it just gets wider.
Okay. So same, there is still parking available on the streets. And is there loading zones that are?
Well, there is.
We'll ask him to come up.
Actually,
I'm sorry. I apologize. It was kind of the questions main questions that I had.
yeah, you need to come up to the mic when you.
And do you have any other questions while
No,
you're at
that's my main. I think, let me just go over this real quick. There is a paging system that is currently being used there. I know that you might not be aware of it, but there is a current paging system that is being used. It's loud. Tenants do get aggravated by that too. Other than that, like the project, okay?
Okay, thank you. And would you like to rebut? Or actually, first of all, is there anybody else who would like to speak on this item? No, okay, thanks.
I can kind of point out a couple of places where loading is going to occur.
Okay,
I walk
please
up
do.
there.
Because I believe that the plan, just to clarify, I believe that the plans that came in, the description that we were given, is that the loading would occur on that rear surface lot. Is that?
Yes, that's correct. On Lot A, in the surface parking lot, correct, right there.
But we have 2 opportunities if Lot A is congested. I can kind of show you what.
Okay.
Because all these trucks will have to back in. They just can't do anything else. But they can come in, back in, and then come out here because there's a ramp right here, and there's also this is parts, so the parts trucks will load here, and then if they come at night, when there's no parking here, there's going to be a drop-off cage here because all the parts come in cages. They're about this boxes that they just roll. And so there'll be a place to secure them here. The other one is on this one where they could come in here and back up here because this ramp goes up to where inventory and also detail is up there because the new cars will go up to the detail area. So if this is congested with service traffic during the day and these come up, the option is, the second option would be here. So there's really enough area to go to 2 places. And this one, once we've taken the service out of here, there's really just customer parking here that the trucks, the transports could get back behind. And they could be between here and here and then run the cars up the ramp.
So the reason they're not doing that now is just because it's used as service and it's too crowded?
Yeah, everything as you probably well know, everything is just a bomb right here because, that's where everybody goes. If you can't get these parking spaces, there's a couple of them that are along here, but every service customer coming in and every service car going out, every new car going in, everything goes through there. So that's why we're trying to spread it out as much as we can. And we're doing as well as we can, within the parameters that we're given with these lots. So, but we're trying to manage because we know that's the biggest problem, and it's as much for the owner because it's rated on how upset her customers are with how many cars and how much stuff she gets.
Excuse me, could you move under the microphone? I think
Oh, that's a microphone.
Yeah, that's a microphone.
Okay. Anyhow, they get rated on how good their business practices are by customer responses, and when you have upset customers, you don't get good responses. So that's why we're trying to improve that, and hopefully it'll improve the neighborhood situation. And that's why this bridge is pretty critical in terms of connectability and bringing everything off of Maple and trying to get all this internal circulation up in the air.
So what about the comment on screening and the comment about the current paging system?
Like I say, they don't use pagers anymore. That's a thing of the past. They're all, handheld phones. They page them.
Even employees?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everybody.
And
that's always a condition. I mean, you can put a condition on there because that's a normal condition.
And are you okay with the lower lighting? So you are okay with lower lighting?
It's again just want security up here, and it'll probably be a little bit more intense in the middle, but it won't bleed off on the sides.
And last comment was screening. You okay with doing a consistent treatment of screening? I'm sure design review would want that as well.
Design review will look at that, yes. Step back a little bit. There are performance standards for lighting and how much it can bleed over into adjacent sites. So obviously you'll need to comply with that.
Yeah, you got an ordinance.
Okay. And with that, is there anything else anybody would like to add? No? All right. With that, I will take this case under submission, and this hearing is now officially closed.